Hi guys, I'm Rasmus Lauberg, and today we're taking a look at my brand new pedalboard that I put together in the last week or two. It's based on a Thomann Harley Benton SpaceShip 60. Yeah, this is the first pedalboard I ever built. I've never really been into the whole pedalboard thing, but sort of over the years accumulated a bunch of pedals, and in the studio it's sort of a hassle to have a ton of cables around. So I brought the board and put together this. So in today's video we're going to go through sort of my thoughts about how it's laid out and how it works and how the cable routing is done, and of course then we also gonna hear how it sounds. So we have a bunch of stuff to go through, so let's get a close-up on the board and talk about it. Okay, so here we are. So first of all, let me talk about what I have on the board, and then I'll go through how I've set up the entire routing. So we start here at a DI box actually, because as you might know from my videos, I spend most of my time at home recording, making music and so forth. So it makes sense to start with a DI box. So this is an active DI box, which sounds fine. I also have a passive DI box, but I haven't really found any difference between DI boxes when recording. Might just be my ears, they're not so good. So I have the input here, and then I would have an XLR here going to an interface. So the link out goes over here to the input on the side of this volume pedal, that also has the power coming here. Actually the active DI box gets its power through the XLR, but if you don't have an XLR in, it still sounds fine. It just passes the signal right through, I think, if there's no battery in or if there's no XLR plugged in. So it even works like without sort of the whole XLR tacked on. So anyway, out of that into the volume pedal. I like volume pedals compared to wahs. I guess the classic thing would be to have a wah here, but I sort of like a volume pedal more. I sort of just work more with that. Then we go out from the volume pedal and we go into a Boss chromatic tuner, a pretty classic tuner. And yeah, it works, it tunes. Then out of that we go into the input on this TC Electronic Sentry, which is a noise gate. And here it gets a bit tricky. So it comes in through the input, which is here, and then it goes to the send, so here, and then the send goes through sort of both two overdrives and also the preamp section of the amp. I'll come back to that. And then it is returned here from the, and this is then the return from the effects loop send on the amp. And then the output here then goes over to here, where I have my effects. Anyway, so yeah, the Sentry is a bit complicated to set up, but by both having, instead of just having an input and an output, but having an input then having all your drive signals in the send and return loop, makes it work much better and makes it real quiet when you have it on. And you can sort of easily set the threshold and get some great sounds that way. So anyway, from the TC Electronic Sentry noise gate, we run into another TC Electronic pedal. So this is the TC Electronic Spark Booster. It is a sort of a volume boost pedal, but it also has a gain, and it does have some EQ knobs. It has bass and treble, and then it also has this switch that controls the mid. So fat would be sort of a mid scoop, then it has clean, which is just a flat mid, and then it has the one called mid, which is a mid boost. So if you don't know, like a classic Tubescreamer has a mid boost, and then it cuts some bass, and then the tone on a Tubescreamer usually just boosts the treble. So I use this to boost the input of an amp, obviously. And the next pedal, we just go out and in here. It's into a Harley Benton Vintage Overdrive, which is basically a Tubescreamer clone, cheap, but it sounds really, really good. So yeah, there's a couple of cheap pedals on here, but I actually don't have any kind of issues with them quality-wise that I've noticed. And yeah, this is also set up to boost, specifically today we're going to boost the front end of the blue channel on an EVH 5150 50 watt. So yeah, so we have the two drive pedals here. Usually I would only use one of them and not have both of them on at the same time. But they basically serve the same purpose. So this is obviously a Tubescreamer, and this is set up to be reminiscent of a Tubescreamer, but it's a little bit different in how it works and how it sounds. So it's just a different flavor of Tubescreamer basically. And then we come out of the output over here, and that then runs to the front end of the amp, so the input of the amp, so to say. So yeah, obviously as you would boost. So that's where I have all my drive pedals. Then, as I said, we come out of the effects loop of the amp into the Sentry noise gate, into the return, and then the output then goes over here. So this bottom line here, you can sort of think of as everything that's going on before the amp, and then the top line here is sort of what's going on in the effects loop of the amp. So we start out there with a couple of Behringer pedals. Again, cheap pedals that I just brought to like try out, but they actually work pretty great and they're fun to have on the board. The first one are sort of the more kind of the whatever spice of the day. So the first one is the Ultra Vibrato, and I think this costs like 20 euros or thereabouts, and the same with the next one, the Ultra Chorus. The Ultra Vibrato, I actually think both of these are copies of Boss pedals, just for dirt cheap. Vibrato, I never really tried it, so again, just brought it for cheap, just to mess around with it. I don't really use it that much. The chorus is nice. It's generally a really nice sounding chorus. And there's also some other videos on YouTube that really go into and shows that this is basically an exact copy of a Boss pedal. Obviously, these two have like a plastic housing and plastic knobs, but like I'm not jumping around on it with like military boots or anything, so they hold up just fine. And you could be like, oh, they don't have true bypass or whatever, but I don't really find them to introduce any noise or take away anything from the signal. So that's fine. Then out of the chorus, we go into the digital delay. So this is an older Boss pedal, the DD7. Which is a really great delay pedal that I got years ago, like 10 years ago or something. And this has a bunch of like inputs and outputs and expression pedals and so forth. But I just have it set up as an input and an output, the mono settings. And then I have the delay going into the reverb. You can obviously also do it the other way around. Kind of the ordering of the effects up here, I guess you could sort of make an entire video on how to organize those, and there are many of those videos out there by others. So we have the delay going into the Hall of Fame, which is a TC Electronic, really great reverb that has a bunch of different settings. I have it set to the room, and that's pretty much my sound. So in a bass configuration, like for rhythms sound, you would just have the Sentry on, and then probably the Overdrive, just to kind of boost the amp a bit. And then for more like lead sounds, you might turn this off and then instead turn the spark boost on and have a bit more gain dial on that, to give you a bit more sustain and so forth. And then maybe and then some flavor of the reverb and the delay, and maybe one of these two for fun. And then the tuner and the volume pedal and the DI, that's more sort of kind of practical boxes to have on the board. So as I said again, this is the Harley Benton SpaceShip 60. What I did was I laid my pedals out basically like this, and then sort of measured like, okay, what size did it have? And then I basically went through a bunch of sites and looked at what different sizes can you get pedals boards in, and this one seemed to fit, and it didn't really cost that much. So that's sort of how I ended up running the whole thing. The last thing is, of course, that there is a power supply, which you sort of strap on the bottom down here, and I guess we can try and do this, and then you can see the underside of it. I'm not the most experienced at building pedal boards, so this is a bit of a hornet's nest, but it's sort of hidden away most of the time. So you can see this is also a Harley Benton power supply. What do they call this? Power Plant ISO 2 Pro. It has 8 outputs. in a like very variety of configurations. And it's isolated so that they each have like their own transformer or something like that, so you don't really get noise between the pedals. I also have an even cheaper Harley Benton power supply, but that does introduce a bunch of noise. So that's why I upgraded this. And if we go back again, you can actually see that I am needing 8 plus 1, so actually 9 power supplies, or 9 power outputs, but I only have 8. But the Boss tuner has like a send for an additional power outlet, which powers the Sentry, I believe, in this configuration. So one last thing is I then have I have the what do I have? So one last thing is I'm sort of running the 4-cable method here, which means that I have 3 wires that I always have coming off the board. Let me move that a bit, you can actually see that. So I have these 3 wires coming off over here and just routed them all over here, and then with a cable tie I've added them to the little leg support like that is over here. So they all come out together, and I've used some more cable ties to keep them together, so that they can sort of run as one coherent band over to the amplifier. And yeah, so I have an output here, goes to the front of the amp, then it comes back here, I think, and then it goes out again here, and then I have the guitar input here. So that is how that works. And then, of course, additionally, I have a power supply for the power supply, or power port for the power supply, going into on the underside here. I'm not sure if that's sort of the best way I've set it up, but that's how it is currently. And yeah, so if you have any comments on how I've done it, or if you think I've done it all wrong, please leave them down below. I'd love to learn more. So yeah, with that said, let's hook it up and put it into power, and let's hear some sounds. All right, so here we are. Got a guitar, got my amp set up over here, the EVA 5153, and the pedalboard down here. So starting with just a clean channel, which is a bit of gain. So if we start on the bottom line here, obviously have a tuner, can tune, roughly in tune, at least with myself. Have the volume pedal. I can obviously use that for volume swells when I have the delay and so forth on. So I guess actually we've started some effects. So here's the Hall of Fame in the effects loop. I'm going to try and add a bit of delay to that. And maybe even also some chorus. Maybe take the delay out. Try the Ultra Vibrato. And we can try and add a bit of drive to the clean channel. completely dry. Bunch of reverb. Delay. Try and change the boost. And you can definitely hear that the spark boosts more dB, even though the volume is cranked on both, but there's more volume coming out of that one. I don't really have a lot of noise now, but if I had, I could turn on the Sentry. There. So if now goes to the blue channel on the EVH, there's a bunch of already, a bit of drive like this. Not a lot, but sort of at the point where you almost don't need an overdrive, but an overdrive just really helps it. So let me try and change that in. At the noise gate as well, should help us now. So that's definitely a nice rhythm sound, I think. And that can sort of work for both the black metal and sort of various styles. Yeah, so that works well. And now let's try some lead sound. So first of all, just introduce some reverb. to the neck pickup. Trying to go to this bark for a different flavor. It boosts more volume, but it adds less gain than the Tubescreamer or the vintage Overdrive. Let's also just try that for rhythm sounds. Back to playing leads. Trying out the delay in there. Always discuss how much delay and reverb should and shouldn't have, but this is definitely fun. I can even add some chorus to that. I think it's fun to have a bit of chorus on both. Like if you play it with a band, it can help you cut through a bit. But also, it's a bit more 80s, but it sort of just gives a different flavor than having the same sound all day. The Ultra Vibrato doesn't really work that well for leads. At least if you're playing fast. If you play really slow, then it will work. But it's more a playing some. You can play some heavy stuff on it, but simpler. So that's just the Ultra Vibrato and some reverb. It's a sort of unusual sound, but it could be fun to use it in a section in like some C section of a black metal song or something like that. There's no extra drive on it, it's just that. I think if you add some drive to it, it becomes a bit too much. And now we haven't really talked about the volume pedal, and with the amount of, I think with the amount of reverb and delay I have now, it's not really that well set up to do like the long kind of soundscape. Sound fades a bit too much in between notes, so if I crank up the levels on the reverb and the delays, and maybe if I set this delay to like more of a shimmer mode, so something like this. Some pretty funky sounds. Almost sounding a bit like a synthesizer. If you try and turn off the shimmering effect again on the Hall of Fame and make it a bit more normal, we have something like this. Longer, I think. More delay time, more decay, or longer decay. Is that fast or slow decay? I don't know. Anyway, let's try it. More feedback as well probably will help. Let's try and see if we can get there. Here I'm just playing single notes, and especially on the 7th string, it sort of, because you have that wider spacing notes, you can get some cool sound. Playing octaves of E. If you try and turn on the ultra chorus, we can also get some funny sounds. Note that to do this, I sort of need to turn off the Sentry, because else the volume pedal will sort of cut off, like in a not good sounding way. We'll try and demonstrate how that can sound. On all of a sudden, so yeah, taking the Sentry out. that's sort of my first experiences with this SpaceShip 60 pedalboard from Thomann, or Harley Benton, same thing. I really dig it. Yeah, it's nice. It's fairly simple to set up. Didn't take me too long to sort of get going with it. Obviously, I had thought about how to set it up before, but still, it's really nice to work with. As you might have noticed, I'm no way an expert on how to set up all this stuff. So if you have recommendations for me for how to do this differently, please put them in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. I'd love to learn more about how to do this better and maybe get even more creativity out of this. And yeah, if there's any parts of this that you would like to see me dive into in more detail, please also write it there. Then I will make follow-up videos on maybe how to do the soundscaping or what have you. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.